Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at you can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
Started with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one agent _70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads.
What's up, everybody? Co-hosting from the borough of Kings. We're back.
Where you from?
Brooklyn going out to all.
I'm just a kid from Brooklyn.
That actually reminds me of another Brooklyn soundbite I need to send to you. Let me make a note for myself.
All right.
Make a note for myself. Remember what song it was from. Anyway, this is the Comic Book Chronicles. You can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, the CSPN.US.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, not anymore, Apple, iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like and subscribe and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts, because that will help people find the show.
Yeah. And you could find us recording every Thursday, mostly every Thursday night, with the exception of next week coming up, but we'll talk about that later, on the YouTube channel of the Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/the Kliq Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Again, please click like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you know when we are on live and direct.
Indeed. All right, folks. So, as folks on X/Twitter have been lamenting the last the last day or so, we have no more X-Men 97 to talk about. People are feeling it. People are feeling it, and I get it. Although we may have a little a smidgen of a side thing of that for those who keep up with comics. But yes, the show as it is for this season is over, so we don't have any live action or animated stuff to talk about this week. But we will in a couple of weeks when Star Wars: The Acolyte premieres.
Right, we're about to run into a holiday weekend, so it's kind of understandable that they would not put up any new shows. But what's interesting for us and for for followers of this area of pop and nerd culture, we don't have any big movie premieres lined up. We haven't had one in May, and other than what I'm going to see next week, we really don't have one in June. So it's kind of a weird time.
That's true. That is true. Sorry, I had to check something.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, I think my point being is that, there are some, some movies that have come out and are coming out that are genre-ish, like, like Furiosa, for example, but it's not stuff that's right in our wheelhouse that we would normally be going to watch and maybe even reporting back for. So
Right.
it's just a weird time. But, thankfully next week we'll have the Acolyte to talk about.
Right. Now, I believe even the next one that is in our wheelhouse, I don't think I'm going to see day of. I'm not sure about you.
What are we speaking of? Deadpool Wolverine?
Yeah.
I'm probably going to see. I was just talking about it with my buddy, and we're probably going to put the call out either to me, my X-Men, or Avengers Assemble, and probably get the gang back together to watch that. Because that might be our one. No, that's probably going to be our one Marvel movie, and our one kind of like group movie outing.
Right. Gotcha. Oh, I didn't. But yeah, yeah. So we have talked about this before. It's kind of lean this year for
Yeah.
stuff, which they did say they were paring back on Marvel movies, and Warner Brothers and DC are still going through whatever the hell they're doing over there. So
Right. I mean, we're still getting like some of the after effects of the pandemic combined with the SAG-AFTRA and writer strike.
yeah, a little bits, a little bits. But a lot of that stuff was kind of in some state of production though. So and I'm pretty sure they weren't like some of them weren't completely stopped. With outside of the actors part, because I know there was still some like minor stuff they were doing that, but even though unless they didn't do like reshoot something like that they couldn't do.
Right.
So, but yeah, there's still stuff was in various points of production that's still lingering out there. When do we do for Invincible? Isn't that like that's near the closest to the end of the year?
Who knows?
Yeah, no, that thing's been
wild. I'd stop trying to keep track of Invincible when when I think the hiatus in between seasons was like more than a year.
Right.
So.
But anyway, what's up, Benji Games 2? Good to see you, good sir.
How are you doing
with us? But so yeah, we're gonna. That being said, like I said, just not really much for us to talk about at this point for a couple of weeks. So we're just gonna go straight into books with our first book of the night, Blood Hunt #2.
Is it true? Are we really starting with Blood Hunt? That's so funny. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. Blood Hunt #2 is written by Jed MacKay with art by Pepe Larraz, colors by Marte Gracia, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So I'll start by saying that Blood Hunt #2 has several elements in it that you saw if you were keeping up with the crossover and the tie-in issues that you saw in other issues. And for obvious reasons, many of these event issues very much contain snippets of what you see in other issues, just so that you don't necessarily have to buy everything. That's obviously, a great thing. It makes things a little bit more cost effective. But for those of us who are choosing to read or have the opportunity to read everything that we can, or at least try to have the time to, it feels a little bit repetitive, but at least we get to see it from a different angle. We get to see maybe a couple of story beats that occur that are not necessarily explored in the other issue, but are more fully fleshed out here. And that's kind of the case. We get some more dialogue in between some of the characters that appear specifically in the Doctor Strange issue that is kind of directly tied into this Blood Hunt issue. And I will say that we get a few more story beats with the Avengers, as well as with the surprise protagonists of this story. It's not that big a surprise that that Blade's daughter is basically one of the focal points of this story, but the other kind of protagonist in this kind of greater, overarching story is still a surprise to me. And I know that we've talked about the first issue. It's not necessarily a spoiler, but I'm still having some issues with, let's just put it this way, the Lord of the Vampires being one of the protagonists. And I'll hand it off to Roddykat.
Yeah. Circling back to what Agent 70 was said. Yeah, sometimes for good or for ill, like you said, stuff that we end up rereading if we're being completist about the events does end up kind of, hey, if you want to read this this side story, here's a little tidbit that talks about that. So, so when I guess with current events they have been current comic book events, I should specify, there are a lot of times it's like, let's say like Fall of X, stuff gets a lot of moving parts, as we've talked about, get talked about. It's like, wait, when does that happen? It doesn't get footnoted or something like that. It's just kind of almost expected you to kind of keep track of everything. But when there's this specialized event like Blood Hunt, like, no, sometimes they'll footnote to it. And in this case, you don't know what's going to be pertinent because like there's a Blood Hunt tie-in right now that, as far as we know right now, not really pertinent because neither one of us has read it. But two books that Blood Hunt #2 does reference are pretty relevant. What's going on? Agent 70 mentioned the Doctor Strange book and also the Dracula book, which apparently is also a fairly important, at least going into Blood Hunt #2. So if you've read those two, you kind of get half of this issue, or the parts of half of this issue that are pertinent to it. So there is that. And you know, this kind of the thing with events, like, yeah, you don't always know what's pertinent or not, and you may have interest of anything, you might, in everything, you might not. It's kind of a dice roll, really. But yeah, everything that is happening in, well, that happens up until the end of Blood Hunt. And also, I guess, yeah, like somebody has also already said, like the Avenger stuff kind of comes back into play with there. But we do get the couple of good bits of info on one of, and maybe possibly two of the antagonists. Like we get a little tidbit in our interaction with that has something to do with one of the main guys, the main people on the, I want to call them the Twilight Court so badly, and I'm trying not to.
Right.
The Blood Coven. But we get a little tidbit that I don't think we knew prior to going into Blood Hunt, in his interaction with another character, which is actually making me think might be a tie to the overarching big bad that is, as Agent 70 said, a surprise so far, because I am still not convinced as who the lower the vampires is that actual person. Could very well be wrong, but there's definitely more to it, as we said the last couple of times we've talked about Blood Hunt. So we'll see how that plays out. Actually, we will have another little bit on Blood Hunt later in the news section about not necessarily continuity, but something therein with what's going on in it. So we'll get to that when we get to the news section. There's really not much else to say though about this issue.
I actually have a couple of notes to make. So the first thing is, I'm like, wait, when has Dracula always been a day walker?
Oh, you talking about that? I thought you were talking about the end.
No, not about the end. I mean, I didn't want to spoil the end because I was just like, when did this happen?
Right. I had that same thought about the end though.
Right.
About what happens at the end. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, granted, he's
so if you look at the so there's a scene in the issue where they bring some sunlight in, and if only temporarily, right? Or maybe there's just this particular spot in the world that's lit up, right, where there's a breach in the Dark Forest bubble. We don't know, but Falcon Cap has his wings out, and maybe he's covering Dracula to keep the sunlight off him. Right, that's kind of what the art implies, but maybe not, because based on the coloring, it doesn't look like it.
Right.
I'm like, shouldn't he be, kind of roasting right now, like the other vampires?
I'm going to say no for one particular reason. He's Dracula.
But
I feel like, yes, he's probably feeling it, absolutely, but he's been around longer and he's stronger than some of these regular vampires. So he's probably actually feeling it, but because he's the
listen, that's the best. That's as good an explanation that's in story as anything. Right. I still don't buy it.
I mean, I agree. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But
unless there's something in the story that's made him more daywalker, because that's what made Blade unique.
Right.
Is that he was the daywalker? They even made that like his calling card, right, amongst the other vampires. So that's one thing. And two, it is more of an observation and a question. What did you think of Pepe Larraz's interpretation of Tigra's current look?
Yeah, I mean,
because it's the first time I've seen her with ears like that.
You know what? I overlooked that, honestly.
But did you, like, now that I mentioned it, does it bring up? Does it kind of stand out? No pun intended to you.
I mean, yeah. but he also had I know I may have been some direction by Jed McKay or something, but also had her in some particular poses. But yeah,
Well, that's art. That's more artistic license than anything. I just thought I was looking at the
right,
the ears. I was like, whoa, that's a different look.
right. Yeah, that one, like I said, it was definitely noticed, but I was like, okay, sure, artist interpretation. So I just kind of left it at that and kept pushing. So
yeah, I was because part of me was thinking Cowardly Lion, but not like very aggressive tiger at this point.
Right. Well, yeah, we know Tiger ain't shook too often, so.
Right. But that's what that's the look. That's how do the kids put it? That's what that's what I was feeling from the look or the look or whatever, however they put it.
Whatever the kids say. Right.
Yeah, whatever the kids say. Oh no, it's giving me. Yeah, that's what it is. It's giving me that.
Yeah. I got you.
That's,
so,
that's what you say, damn it.
But yeah, like I said, noticed it, but I just threw it to artist interpretation and let it go. So
right.
Because every time Tiger's one of those ones. Almost everyone's just going to do her slightly different, some kind of way. And we don't even see her that often to really notice it lately. I mean, obviously she's been in Moon Knight's book, but prior to that,
right.
Anyway, you got something else, or was those?
No. Those are the two. The two.
Yeah. But yeah, Bloodhead and number 2. It is what it is. Still not entirely sure what's the full motivations of the antagonist, as Agent 7 pointed out before the show. And yeah, I guess we'll get there.
Eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of trusting McKay on this.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely, been good at telling, medium to long form stories over the course of several, series that we've seen, like weaving things in and out. And we'll see where this vampire stuff goes, and it's just odd that like we would get this kind of heel turn out of Blade, and we're not quite at the halfway point. We're about to get to the halfway point in the middle of next issue in this miniseries,
right? In
this event series, because it's a 5-issue series,
right? And that's what's making me think there's more to it than that being just that,
right?
Because I feel like we would have seen something of it elsewhere, and we definitely didn't get it out of that Blade book, unless something that I don't recall is going to tie back into it at some point, but I don't think so. I see something that could, but I still doubt it. Right. Anywho's, next book we're going to talk about is Fall of the House of X number 5 of 5.
Fall of the House of X number 5 is written by Jerry Duggan with art by both Lucas Verneck and Stefano Caselli, colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So this is the final issue of this miniseries. That's part of the Fall of Krakoa storyline, and we get to see the mutants basically strike back. We get to see how many elements of the fall of Orcus might be falling into place. Interestingly, we also see what might be, I guess, the formation of new groups. We know that the coming out of the ashes. What is it? There's at least 4 main X-Men titles, and then there's a bunch of solo titles too.
But I thought it was only 3 main ones.
Oh, is it 3? I thought they announced the 4th. I apologize.
Oh no, they've definitely announced it, so, but I'm not sure outside of those 3, or I guess if are we counting NYX as a main?
No. I think my mental image of that promo art was wrong, because I thought it was 4, but I guess it is 3 titles. Right. Because it's like Uncanny, regular X-Men, and like Sensational or something like that.
Exceptional, yeah.
Exceptional,
Yeah.
because the exceptional one is kind of like the Generation X New Mutants story, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the Emma and Kate thing.
And Kate, right?
Yeah.
So, but we're starting to see like glimmers of that, like how they might split the group up. I think the one note I wanted to make before I pass this to Roddy is there's been something of a reclamation of Scott Summers over the last it feels like several months, if not like most recent memory, right? Let's say like in the last year or two, right? Interestingly, and I don't know if this is just a new thing, maybe it's a new version of Nimrod. I don't remember that Cyclops' optic blasts were that effective against Nimrod. And I'm like, wait a second, Jerry Duggan. Is this because it's like, the remember when they made up secondary adamantium and tertiary adamantium so that they could make a reason why like Ultron, like certain Ultron bodies would be more susceptible than others to damage?
Right.
I wonder if that was the in-story reason for why Cyclops was able to damage Nimrod, because there is an in-story reason for Nimrod being of a lesser quality, because let's say his attention is divided,
Right.
his presence is divided, and you know what? There's times when we always joke about this on the show. We read a lot of comics, folks. It's very hard to remember all of the moving pieces. We were talking about this with regards to another book in our pre-production meeting. Oh no, it was about this book. We were talking about how there are just many moving pieces. It's hard to remember, and this is one of those times when I really appreciated the recap page at the front of the book. I very much did use that to refresh my recollection and to make sense of what was going on, because there's just a lot of moving pieces in this end of the Krakoa time. So, and I'll hand it off to Roddykat. Shout out to whichever intern at Marvel wrote that.
Right. Actually, I'm on that Cyclops part. Something else that got brought up in this issue, slight spoiler, but something that I was kind of curious about, that I'm looking at a list that I felt was the case. I'm like, wait, so now Cyclops is Omega level? Because there was a mention in this issue of that being the case, or potentially being the case. I don't know. Like that could have been, that couldn't have been something they slipped in there.
Right. So the way I read that is that he was not Omega level, but he was the Omega, the final, as opposed to the Alpha being the first.
Right, but then they kind of flip that too.
Right. That's the way I read that.
Okay.
And that's how I interpreted that. I could be wrong. You might be right, where they might be adding him to the list of Omega level mutants.
Right, because I just looked at that list and he wasn't on it. So, and I felt fairly confident that he wasn't on it from memory. So, but that was the case. But speaking of Omega level mutants, one comes in right after that happens in the makes an entrance true to form.
Right.
That you could almost hear them coming in with what they say. So that part was all great. But yeah, so we get a little bit of recap from Orchis' side of things in this. And I'm not entirely sure who was the one doing the narration, but that whole Nimrod thing, I actually jokingly thought about it, and thinking like, see, he's been hanging around with Sinister too long. That's why he got brittle. That's why and that's why he got brittle, and Cyclops could get to him. But I know that's not, that's not the case. But I'm going with that until this is over with. So, because that whole thing was like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the whole splitting of himself, maybe that's part of the reasoning. That's why, because they did say something like, well, he's splitting himself into separate entities, and having to control them. So therefore, it's taking a lot of power and energy and blah 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 blah. So then going into that Cyclops bit, I'm like, okay, so maybe that is their live reasoning as to why that is going on with that Cyclops could get to him like that. Don't know. Still doesn't make any sense. I don't think any Cyclops fan is going to care.
Right.
So that's just going to stay the way it is until forever.
Right.
But,
and we're still getting elements of Professor X is the worst in the, and it's weird. It's all very cyclical, folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very cyclical. If you don't have memories of when Professor X was the worst before, it's back.
Yeah. And I think that is probably one of the curiosities coming out of the Fall of X that I'm curious about. Because I'm like, okay, as far as we know, he's not going to be around after this.
Right. Or at least not active.
Right. So where are they trying to put him? Or what he's going to be doing? Because this particular issue kind of hints to something, but I suspect there's going to be more to that. Given, I think, last issue, or given last X-Men issue. Because now that I think about it, I just thought about something. Well, anyway, I suspect there's probably going to be more to it because I'm remembering something that happened in that last X-Men issue with Kate and Logan. And I was like, well, wait a minute. So one of them we didn't see in this particular issue. So I'm wondering if that's still going to be in play after in the next issue, which I guess is Rise is off. Rise is done, actually, isn't it? Or we still got one more of Rise, right?
There's one.
Yeah, that's what it's at. So we might see whatever's going on there.
Right, because ultimately this is about to end because at the end of this issue we get next Rise of the Powers of X or Rise of the Powers of 10 number 5 and Uncanny X-Men number 700, and I guess that's how we're going to formally end the age of Krakoa and jump into From the Ashes.
Right, 700 is definitely the last part of it, so I guess that's probably the / epilogue.
Right.
So
more likely than not, that's probably exactly how they're going to play it. It's going to be the epilogue / new beginning.
Right. So, but anyway, one other thing to say before we go, we did get a reunion, a familiar reunion in this one. That was, I kind of smiled at that a little bit, and so did the person who found out that someone's joined the party, someone's back from the dead and joined the party. You can pretty much guess that if you've been keeping up. But also, hey, Psylocke fans rejoice, I guess.
Yeah, right.
We hadn't really seen too much of her. We were talking before the show about that, so yeah, you get a little bit of that, and not quite her 90s sensibilities, but you could almost see it happening. You could almost see her saying it as she does the thing.
Yeah.
So that,
and what's interesting?
What was that? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was about to say what's interesting. I was kind of flipping through the issue. What's interesting to me is that there's an apparent use of the professor's telepathy that also affects Lockheed.
Right.
I was like, what? Like, I'm looking at wait, what?
Well, I didn't think he was. Was Lockheed supposed to be immune to it, or?
No, but it's just that that's not something I've ever thought a telepath was capable of, like a human telepath. That's all.
Right, because Lockheed would have other senses that
exactly.
Yeah, I get you. Well, again, there's another.
He is the most powerful telepath in the world.
Right. So I'm pretty sure you could probably block that out if he's thinking about it. I still think somebody's going to come and stick him, but I was like, oh, you got rid of them, but not me, Snicked. But we'll see if that actually happens. Oh, by the way, Agent 70, Benji says I'm great. Hope you are as well. I forgot to say that from earlier.
Thank you.
Next up, we're leaving the house and getting Amazing with Amazing Spider-Man number 50.
So I'm just going to give the credits for the main story for Amazing Spider-Man number 50. The main story is written by Zeb Wells with pencils by Ed McGuinness, inks by Mark Farmer, colors by Marcio Miniz and Eric Arciniega, and letters by our favorite lettering python, the hardest working letterer over at Virtual Calligraphy, VC's Joe Caramagna. So if you thought you knew what was going to happen, you were right.
Yeah.
We're pretty right. There is a minor twist at the end of this issue, but even then, it's still been kind of, it's been teased that certain, let's say, aspects would be transferred from one arch enemy to our hero Spider-Man. So that's basically all I have to say. My favorite part of this issue is actually one of the backup stories that involves donuts. So I'll hand it off to Roddykat.
Yeah, there's a part of the main story that actually I didn't mention to Agent 70 before when we were talking about this book before the show, is that, oh man, we're doing this again in a way because it has shades of Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like,
I get
okay.
that. I get that. I see that.
Yeah,
that.
so it's like, okay, we're kind of doing this again. God damn it, Zeb Wells. As we have lamented about some things to do. Now, that being said, we did get, I don't know at whose direction, I'm assuming it was the artist, the artist, Ed McGuinness and Mark Farmer and Marcio Miniz, but we did get a nice splash page of a classic Spider-Man cover, a couple of pages in. So, you know, that was good to see. But outside of that, yeah, the main story was what it was. If you saw it coming, you saw it coming. We definitely saw it coming. And I think we even talked about it even in news about it happening. But it was like, yeah, no surprise there. So now we got to deal with what's going on now. And yeah, I'm kind of with Agent 70 about that one backstory that he was referring to, which was pretty good. There's also a couple of other backstories in here. One of which is kind of an backup story. Sorry, you're right. Sorry. Backup stories. One of which is kind of in not necessarily an epilogue, but I think they do use the word epilogue in it because it is the last one of the issue that is going to go into presumably next issue. What I assume with that, we have a new version of a Spidey, not so much villain, that has channeled a DC Superman villain. In looks.
Yeah. In looks, definitely looks.
Yeah. And who also channels Aerosmith on the way out.
And Run DMC.
And well, yeah, I did, but originally
that's the clue, right? No, but you know what I'm saying? Like once you say that, then yeah, because it could be, you know, Love in an Elevator of all things.
Well, yeah, that is all. Yeah, I guess that is true too. But yes, the clarification is noted.
No,
yeah,
that's like the big hint. The big hint is it's Aerosmith and Run DMC.
Right. But yeah, there's a Spidey Black Cat thing that was all right, cool. And then there was like a young adult-ish type story, and another Doctor Strange and Spidey one that seemed like it's going to that's going to come back at some point also.
Right. It seems like it's going to lead to something.
Right.
Of note, the Black Cat story was written by Marv Wolfman, so it's nice to see like an older Marvel creator, or older creator come back to you know, come back to the fold, as it were.
Right. And the one one backstory that Agent 70 said that he liked, where bad guys be bad guy in, that has to do with donuts, was written by the writer of the previous Spider-Man India miniseries, for those who read that.
Right.
Nikesh.
And speaking of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think his name was Nikesh Mukla or something like that. I hope I'm not butchering his name.
Nikesh Shukla.
Shukla. There we go. I was slightly off. Yeah.
And, you know, since we're talking about creators coming back to the fold over at Marvel, Chris Cross, the artist, does the donut story. And I looked up when I saw his name in the credits. I was like, oh, this may well be the first time we've seen Chris Cross at a Marvel book in ages.
That might be, yeah, that's probably true. I'm not gonna look it up.
Ages. Because I'm trying to remember what the last Marvel book I remember him doing at all was. Because if I recall, I remember him for I'm not gonna waste time on this, but it was for DC.
Right.
I want to say it was for a DC character.
Right.
That's how I'm remembering it, but I could be incorrect.
Right, and we're not talking about Chris Cross, the '90s rap group.
Right, nor the music, the solo musician.
Correct.
Christopher Cross.
Christopher Cross. Yes. I was gonna make that one first, but I was like, do really people even know who Christopher Cross is?
Because that's what came up when I typed this in.
Right.
Too funny.
But
that's too funny.
Yeah, but nevertheless, we get a little bit of Kurt Connors channeling JJJ at the beginning of the thing, which is kind of funny to me, and going into everything else that happened in that the main story. So yeah, I mean, for the 50th issue, and wait, what's the legacy number on this? Is it sure?
The legacy?
Yeah.
On the cover? You know what? That's a good question.
I see it. It's 944. Okay.
Shit.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, Spider almost
now I
out.
remember. So Chris Cross used to do lots of milestone stuff.
Yes.
And the Marvel stuff that I knew him for was for Captain Marvel. That was the Genis Vell stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, in fact, I wonder because I think he did the last couple of milestone returns. Well, something in that milestones returns thing. I think that I read a while back. So that I think that's the last time I remember reading something with him doing the art. So cool.
Yeah, he had a long run doing DC related stuff. So
all right, cool. As we push on into the continuing with the Spider Corner, we're going to get into some spectacular Spider-Man #3.
There was a time when Roddykat would not have been able to sing that because he had not watched it, and then I forced him to watch it,
well,
or at least nudged him very forcibly.
Close enough.
Spectacular Spider-Man #3 is written by Greg Weisman, with pencils by Humberto Ramos, inks by Victor Olazaba, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So Roddykat gave me a few extra minutes at the end of our pre-production meeting to read this because I had mistakenly skipped it. And it did read very quickly. It's light, but there are some shocking elements to it right off the bat. And once you realize that not everything is as it seems, not everything is how it looks, you understand, that there are, Mysterio-esque type of things going on. And, that's even, there's even a point, that's even a point that's made in the issue. Ultimately, if you are familiar with a certain character's outline, you will know that this character appears or is an element in this story based on the cover, right? So the cover does a good job of creating that sense of anticipation for at least people that are familiar with this character's silhouette. There's another character that pops up where I'm like, whoa, where did this guy come from? Where has he been? But otherwise, we the reveal is that there are two antagonists at least going on. There are several mini story threads that are being woven in and out. We're meant to sort of care about some of these characters from the first issue which, like, let's say over the course of the first 3 issues, we're meant to care about what's happening to them. Some of them are familiar because they are adaptations of the characters that were on the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series. So, but beyond that, I'll hand it off to Roddykat to talk more about this issue.
Yeah, there's really not much more to say outside of the fact that some as I told Agent 70 and as I said on Twitter earlier tonight, as of we're recording this, Weissman teases a ship that's going to be cause some people to be upset in a good way, but upset nonetheless, because and I would be one of those people because it is a couple of characters that are some would want to be together. Let's just put it that way. In this especially given, well, I would say especially given recent events, but that's not even
Sure.
the case. But just
Sure.
their close friendship. I'll put it this way. People have wanted that for a while.
Right. And what's interesting is that there's a relationship that is, let's say, the more shocking of the of the two that are introduced here.
Yes, a
where
budding
when I
relationship.
read it and I looked and I was like, whoa.
I wish I had been recording because he was reading it while we were doing pre-production, and I wish I had recorded it because it was funny. I thought he was talking about the one that I was talking about at first, but he was talking about the other one. So I'm like, yeah, that's
right. The first one that's introduced. The first one that's introduced is like, whoa. Like why didn't we think of that before? It's because one of the characters was significantly older, or at least portrayed as being significantly older.
Right.
But thanks to a Hollywood portrayal, that character is a lot younger now.
Indeed. Speaking of that part, I have in my notes, where's your hand, Gwen? Because we see in that first page a pairing. Well, outside of the budding relationship, we see the pairing of one of the main characters to, I guess, to the person I just mentioned, but also she has her hand somewhere. It's like, wait a minute, you little.
Oh, now you're making me go back and look.
Like, hold on, what's going on there?
Oh, damn!
You see it? Like I'm like, all right, you kind of in there. But that being said, you can read it for yourself.
If you look at the color, if you look at the coloring, it's really Pete's hand, but because the word balloon is in the wrong spot.
Right. But you can see how it looks though.
Yeah. Like first glance, you're just like, whoa.
Right. So that being said, let's see. We got some. Oh, I don't know if I'm sure Agent 70 caught this, but there was a reference to a New York team that comes up in one of the dream sequences, and I have in my notes like, are you sure that's where you want to go? With one of the characters who's in one of the dream sequences. But also, I'm going to assume that the person that shows up on a certain talk show is the one responsible for Hamilton.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here like, okay, I guess that's a checkbox they wanted to get out of the way there. So just got to get some more of those stuff. But yeah, we see some more of that, and we get something that could be potentially a reference to that Roxxon Thor one shot. Thanks to part of the dream sequence, one of the main characters is in. At least that's the way I'm kind of taking it, even though I know that's not the case. But it was kind of funny. I was like, that's a lot of talking about that company for this dream sequence that has nothing to do with that book, So that one kind of tickled me. But overall, like I said, pretty entertaining book, and it's a pretty quick read. And the ships aside, and the telegraphing of at least one of the bad guys that's been happening through this whole the last the 3 issues aside. I'm like, okay, that the other partner was the surprise here,
right?
Because we already knew who was involved in one way. So still makes this a book to kind of continue, or at least personally, for the next couple of issues anyway. So, and we even got a Jane Foster cameo for quick, you know. So what can be better than that? You got anything else? 87, or that's it?
No, we can move on.
Sensational She-Hulk number 8. Oh, and by the way, before we even get on, I think one of the variant covers that Agent 70 liked, I think I flashed prior to the one I got up right now. So,
yes, very reminiscent of Spectacular Spider-Man comics of old. Sensational She-Hulk number 8 is written by Rainbow Rowell with art by Andres Genolet, colors by D. Cunniff, and letters again by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So we are literally picking up where we left off in the last issue. We are on, I forget, like a is it a space station or a planet? I forget.
It's like a space hotel casino type deal.
Yeah, it's like a resort.
Yeah,
it's a resort casino, and one of Jack of Hearts' old flames has made a mistake. Right? She's attacking She-Hulk. Things go from not so crazy to, oh, it's a big misunderstanding. And then some feelings get hashed out. And it's an interesting turn. There's a lot to this relationship that Rainbow Rowell is exploring between She-Hulk and Jack of Hearts. So, it's a lot of it is actually put out there in the dialogue, and that's definitely a different kind of superhero book than most people are used to. And with that, I'll hand it off to Roddykat.
Yeah, the flavor text for or some sort of the solicitation for this book was making it sound like it was definitely going to go one way, and I was kind of halfway expecting it to go that way, and I'm glad it didn't go the way I expected, because it easily could have, and that would have been a heartbreaker. But there still might be. I feel like there's still. We were talking before the show about a part of this about a character just being gone after the first part of this book. I'm like, maybe there's something else that could happen with that. Don't know, but
we don't know.
Yeah, I slightly doubt it, but who's to say? But that being said, like, yeah, it's She-Hulk's been a good read, and it continues to be so. Rainbow Rowell's been doing her thing on that. And at the end of it, we one of Jen's friends finds some new friends apparently, which was funny. So
it was kind of extending a bit, like talk about committing to a bit,
right? So that was a fun bit, a fun thing kind of coming out of this off the end of this issue, as we go wherever this book is going to go. But yeah,
right.
She-Hulk's fun. You should check it out if you are so inclined. And actually, that, folks, is the end of the books that we have in common. Rapid fire.
All right, let me spin it up. Rapid fire review time.
I ain't got time to breathe.
All right, first up for me is Nightwing number 114. It's written by Tom Taylor with art by Bruno Redondo, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Wes Abbott. So we've had some, interesting stories leading up to this arc. This arc that we just started appears to be the big battle developing, or let's say the moves that the big bad named Heartless is starting to put into motion, right? That he's been kind of planning in the background as a result of things that have been happening in the story. So what's interesting in this is that Nightwing is also dealing with his own personal issues based on some, it might be, deeply psychological. It might be deeply, and definitely deeply personal. So it's an interesting development to see something that you don't necessarily attribute to these high-flying, high-swinging heroes come into focus in this kind of extended story arc. Next up is Blood Squad 7 #1 from Image. It's written by Joe Casey with art by Paul Fry, colors by Francesco Segala and Gloria Martinelli, and letters by Russ Wooten. I read this and the joke, and I've already used it, so Roddykat's not gonna laugh. But I read this because I thought it was part of the Blood Hunt event. Haha. Where's my drum roll? Where's my drum roll? It's called Blood Squad 7, right? But you know what it's also reminiscent of? Not just Blood Hunt, but also a time at Image Comics when the books were just launching, the creator-owned books at Image were just launching, and a certain studio led by a certain creator had a ton of books that had the word blood in it, right?
Including
And
one that came out this week.
What's that? Yes,
including
yes.
one
There was
that
a
came out
Blood
this week.
Strike that
Mhm.
came out this week. And the premise of this book is, and Joe Casey does an excellent job in a letter to the audience at the end of the issue, talking about the premise of this book. In that, what would happen, or kind of like, where would the Image universe, the interconnected, interrelated Image universe, be today, 32 years after its launch? And you know, they tie in a couple of current events things like the war in Ukraine, and you know, other you know, and a couple more like kind of current eventy type things to make it more present day and more relevant to us, but at the same time kind of moving some of the team and superhero dynamics that were present in 1992 forward, and seeing how they would be adapted into today's Image universe. And I really like that. You know, it's weird to be nostalgic for the 90s, but it is now 30 plus years ago, at least the early part of the 90s. So it's interesting that they even make a point of that in the issue. Joe Casey writes that right in, like, oh yes, the 90s are, you know, everyone's nostalgic for that stuff now.
True.
So it's an interesting thing. You know, I got a kick out of reading this book because you know, Roddykat and I were talking about it in pre-production about how you know, obviously we're seeing the 90s Image teams, you know, and that interconnected universe being brought forward, and seeing how it's influenced some other properties that are popular today. That, you know, you could even say that some of those concepts that were in the Image comics had, you know, were kind of before their time, as it were. You know, because nowadays there are some properties that have, you know, really used some of those concepts and ran with them, and they've really exploded across popular culture over the last several years. Next up is, we had a lot of stuff in common this week. So next up is Immortal Thor #11. It's written by Al Ewing with art by Valentina Pinti, colors by Espen Grundager, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So we do not necessarily pick up right where we left off in the last issue, right? With someone holding an alleged murder weapon. We do touch upon that in the first couple of pages, but then we jump right into another story, which really touched me because I enjoyed reading some like actual Norse mythology as a kid, and you know, as a young adult, you know, when I was doing a little bit of research into who some of these characters were in Thor. And you know, and some of these characters, you know, I've been reading Thor on and off for many years, you know, a little bit before the Simonson run, especially during the Simonson run and after, and seeing how some things are woven in and out of the Marvel continuity that are taken from the actual Norse mythology. And it's what's interesting about this story is that it's a mix of both, and we're brought into a story that weaves in, believe it or not, some Hickman gods stuff. And it's very much on the cover that we're going to see some concepts that have been explored in the gods series in this issue, probably in this story arc. And last for me, because we had so many books in common, is Spider-Gwen the Ghost Spider #1. It's written by Stephanie Phillips. I've got a little typo in my credits. It's written by Stephanie Phillips with art by Federica Manchin or Mancin or Manson. Uh, colors by Matt Miller and letters by VC's Ariana Marr. I really enjoyed this book. It's a number one, and it throws what we understand to be the status quo of Gwen Stacy from Earth, whatever Earth that is, into a loop, right? It throws it all for a loop. And we get the appearance of, and we've talked about this in the news, the appearance of, I don't think it's his first appearance, but the appearance of Ki Hui Kwan's OB from the Loki television show on Disney Plus. I don't think it's a first appearance.
I don't think so. No, I feel like there was something fairly recently where he
we've seen OB before, so the TVA is involved in the Spider-Gwen book, and you know, I obviously had fun reading all of OB's lines in my head in Ki Hui Kwan's voice, but you know, I still just enjoy. I don't know what it is about Spider-Gwen. She's probably like that breath of fresh air character that I just enjoy reading. And I really liked how Stephanie Phillips wove this particular story into some current continuity, brought in some spiders that we haven't seen in a while, like Silk. And, you know, we'll see how this goes moving forward. But believe it or not, this is a surprise candidate for Click of the Week for me. And that's it for me.
Yeah, Spider-Gwen was that first more, I would say, more recent, I guess, recent history breakout hit. You know, that was like her and probably Kamala before her, but nevertheless, especially in the Spider Corner. So yeah, just I'm just glad they're keeping to just keeping doing something with her. I wish Kamala would continue to get that same treatment, but but yeah, Gwen's great. I'm looking forward to checking this out. And
yeah, for whatever reason, I just enjoy reading like this take on the character, and obviously we've seen her in the movies also, in the animated movies. So it's an interesting thing that that the Gwen character has had this kind of staying power.
Mm-hmm. All right. First up for me, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures Continued, number 13. Written by definitely not written by Rainbow Roll. Story by Eric Burnham, art by Sarah Meyer, and letters by Ed Dutshire. So that whole, hey, we're gonna get a bunch of turtles from different eras to show up in the pages of this book. Well, that happens here, and unfortunately, it is not. While it is the crossover that some may have but looking for, it is definitely not the one that folks might be expecting, because it's kind of a here and gone in service of the bootleg Mr. Mxyzptlk dealings with the turtles. So, and yes, I said Mxyzptlk and not Mxyzptlk. I recognize I do know the corrections, but hey, whatever. I'm a Super Friends. I come from Super Friends eras, and that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, seriously. Like, we never said Mxyzptlk.
Right. Like, that was fairly a new thing. But anyway, there's a sudden but unknown portrayal that happens during the course of this, which leads to, oh, by the way, the words Contest of Champion was uttered in this, and y'all know me, I love me some Contest of Champions, which I guess technically kind of what this was in this issue, but it was fairly brief. So going into the next round of this 3-round vendetta that this character has against the turtles. And I guess he let's put it this way, coming out of this issue, said antagonist said, well, I'm going to go big so I can win this and get rid of you all. Put it that way. Which harkens back to the first Saturday Morning Adventures miniseries for the turtles. So it's going to be interesting how they finish this off. Next up, speaking of something Agent 70 was just alluding to, Void Rivals, number 9 from Skybound Image, written by Robert Kirkman, art by Lorenzo de Felici, colors by Patricio Del Pesce, and letters by Russ Wooten. This, did I actually make this up? Look at the week, I guess I did. It's one of them anyway. So if you're watching the video version, you can see a fan favorite season 3 Transformer has actually made his debut, but we've already talked about the fact that he was coming because I think the cover was spoiled probably a couple of months back. So that Cybertronian does show up and does play a relatively significant part in this issue, in a way that was interesting, that I thought was pretty good. But also we get to see some other sides of this universe in the form of the Quintessons, who at the end of this issue are pretty much kind of tying this Energon Universe into Void Rivals into this Energon Universe, I guess, a little bit more closer. And that's all I'll say about that until next issue. But also, if you are a fan of Transformers season 3-ish era, there is a certain character that has been showing up here that has some family that we kept hearing about during the course of that season. And well, let's just say he makes his way back home. You may or may not be able to guess to see if what he keeps referring to is what he finds when he gets there. That's all I'll say about that. But yeah, Void Rivals was a pretty good issue. Look at having to see said Cybertronian show up was pretty cool. And continuing with said Energon Universe, Cobra Commander number 5 is next, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Andrea Milano, colors by Annalisa Leone, and letters again by Rose Wooten. So, the Commander tries to get the attention of a certain head of a certain corporation that fans of G.I. Joe will know him to be allied with. And in fact, he tries to get this attention for the sake of getting into an alliance with this head of the corporation. And during the course of this issue, we do see some glimpses of other folks that he might be, that they might end up being allied with. A set of twins pops up in a screen, as does a certain ninja from a certain clan. Kind of pops up. Like, yeah, this is kind of all spoilers, but you still might want to read all of this. So now I feel like if you're already tuned into this, you already are. Oh, and I forgot to mention at the end of Void Rivals, there is a preview for the upcoming Scarlet miniseries, which also is going to probably prominently feature the clan that said ninja comes from, or was once associated with. I'll say that in that preview. And at the end of this issue, there is a preview for the next miniseries that is coming, which has to do with that head of the company. So I'll just go ahead and say it: Destro, the miniseries, which is coming up soon. And actually, that Scarlet miniseries, I think, is coming up in 2 weeks. And I think that Destro one is not too long afterwards. But yeah, we also get at the end of this a preview for that Destro miniseries that is also coming. And it was set in a place called Darklonia, which I don't know if that is a place that has ever shown up in G.I. Joe lore.
Maybe the comics.
Yeah, maybe. But it wasn't familiar to me. Oh, and we also catch up with what's going on in Cobra Law after
La
the
la 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 la.
yep, after the events of the Free Comic Books Day book. So if you read that and you read this, then you'll get a little bit more going on, because apparently they have some plans going forward as well, having to do with the title character of this book and other elements of this Energon universe. Let's say. All right, next up, Star Trek Defiant number 15. There we go. Written by Christopher Cantwell, art by Angel Unzueta, colors by Marissa Louise, and letters by Clayton Cowles. Of course, not at you with BC, of course, because it's a side thing. So we get a little bit more backstory on our favorite Orion farmer before getting back into the story with the infestation of Starbase 99 and the Borgification / Huification of one Belana Torres because of the events of last issue, and what's going on into that. And if you're watching the video version, you see a out for themselves Romulan who also joins up with the rest of the crew in this story for reasons I'm sure of their own. We also get a character that turns into Xeno Warrior Princess at the end of this, which was quite amusing. So it was, as it tends to be, a very good book, a pretty good book personally to read. So I enjoyed it. Next up, Ultimate Black Panther number 4. Written by former guest of the show Brian Hill, with art by Stefano Caselli, color artist David Curiel, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So we, I know Agent 70 is going to read this at some point, so I won't really give away too much, which there's really not much else to give away. But I will say that starts off with a very queenly speech, and which ends up with the character saying the thing that has been a slogan for them from the last few years. So before going into the book with well, they find there's I guess there's the whole thing with Ra and Khonshu. They have their own differences between each other on how to deal with the Wakanda, but we also have some things going on with T'Challa that I guess take up after the last issue. But I guess it's not an issue with this book, but I've noticed that the last couple of issues have ended a certain way, and you think there would be a continuation right then and there, but not really, which is slightly off-putting, but because it kind of makes you think like, wait, did I miss something going into this issue? But no, they just that was a choice of them just kind of move it along, and I guess sometimes bring it back when it feels necessary to do so. So that is the thing with this book. Doesn't make it a bad book. It's just something that just kind of sticks to. I mean, that kind of can stick to you if you let it. So, but yeah, still a good read. Let's see what's next. Last book for myself, as I alluded to it at the beginning of the show. If you're needing some X-Men 97 fix, well, there's this week's X-Men 97 number 3, which is written by Steve Fox, with art by Salva Espin, colors by Matt Miller, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So we still got to continue. This is a continuation from the last issue where the X-Men were kind of split up in different groups because they were in different places, but they all get attacked by members of the Marauders. So there was like Wolverine and Morph was in one spot, and Storm comes to help them. And then there was there was Rogue, Gambit, Bishop and Jubilee, who's in another place, and they get attacked by. I'm going to assume this is a new character, but I'm not entirely sure. And then, of course, the mansion, as tends to happen, where Jean Grey, Cyclops, and Beast get attacked by the other character, whom I believe is also new. Um, uh, at the end of last issue, and continues on this issue, which all pretty much gets taken care of before various members of the X family find out about Jean, because Scott can't help but being an overprotective person and kind of gives it away in one shape or way. But at the end, everybody else finds out, which leads to a sinister presence at the end of this book, like that one that tends to happen at the end of an original X-Men animated series would have done back in the way. So you could almost kind of see it. And with that, but it's still a good read. I didn't know, because there's some things that I might not have spoiled in there. But like I said, if you need your X-Men 97 fix, you got a little bit of something. This is the prequel to the season, by the way. So you get to find out a couple of things, or you get some continued adventure of prior to the season. I put it that way. And that is it for myself. Kliqs of the week.
Kliqs of the week.
So you said you had.
I had Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider #1 as a candidate. I would also throw in, I did like, as weird and as wonky as some of the storytelling was, Fall of House of X #5. And I would throw Nightwing #114 in there also.
You've been hot on that book. So
I mean, I've been reading it consistently.
Right.
So and Tom Taylor on that book is pretty solid. Like his whole run on this has been pretty solid. How about you?
For myself, yeah, Void Rivals, Cobra Commander, Star Trek is good, but it was the normal rate of good that it has been. It's there, but probably wouldn't necessarily make the cut, because like I said, it is as good as it normally is. So, which is no slouch, personally. I did have another one, actually, and I don't remember what it is now, so I'm blanking on it. Oh yeah, Fall of the House was also good, though. Especially, like I said, you got, there's a couple of moments that happened in the course of this was like, yeah, let it go, get it. And actually, I would give a nod to Spectacular Spider-Man. Even though it's, like I said, it teased the ship that I would have wanted, and I know that's probably not going to happen unless Marvel's setting up something that I don't know about. But I don't think, given this current state of the characters and their relationships they're in, I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, it's one I would have wanted to see, or I still want to see, honestly. I don't know. Do you have yours?
I think I'm gonna stick with my guns and go with Spider-Gwen. I did like a lot of books this week. I definitely wish that Amazing Spider-Man 50 was a little stronger, but that backup story was probably the best part of it. Immortal Thor #11 is, like, Immortal Thor is always going to be a consistently good read, but this issue was a lot of setup. So that's what put it a little bit behind Spider-Gwen this week.
Gotcha. For myself, I mean, let's face it, we know the G.I. Joe, the stuff that's been out so far is setting up the main book,
right,
including the previews in Cobra Commander and Void Rivals, of stuff that's coming up that were actually fairly recently announced, not that long ago. But obviously they've been working on it. But I think, Oh yeah, I forgot about. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to actually. I would almost say it's almost a tie between Void Rivals and Cobra Commander for moments that happened between both of them. I'm probably going to give the edge to Cobra Commander because, well, let's just face it, the ruthless terrorist organization that is
Rule the world.
exactly has now been established. Well, not necessarily established, but has been named at the end of this book. And it's actually kind of funny because going into the last couple of pages and given who and what you see in that, it's like, yeah, okay, this makes sense that these people would be wanting to be wanting to be a part of this. So, but yeah, Cobra Commander's big speech going into the end of this, even though he doesn't say those words that I just said, just kind of puts you there. So, Cobra Commander number 5 is my click of the week, which is kind of a surprise. And with that, we're going to go into the news of the week, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. Place your first order with $30 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us, that's cspn.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
Oh, I've muted myself. Moved myself. X-Men 97 finale secretly introduced another Summer's child. That's true, but possibly not true. I mean, it is. I guess it is technically because we kind of wanted it at the finale. Spoiler alert, folks. For the finale of X-Men 97, which was last week. But we see at the end of X-Men 97 one. Well, if you're watching the video version, you can see the character in question, but we see a character by the name of Mother Ascani. And if you know your X-Men lore, you kind of have some ideas about the association there. Who was actually voiced by one Beverly Crusher / Gates McFadden, by the way, of Star Trek fame. So I guess Bo DeMayo's homework might have been twofold or threefold. I don't know. But yeah, that may or may not be another Summers person, a Summers relation. But we don't know that for. Well, I guess I don't know. There's probably that part of X-Men comic wise. I'm not too familiar with how because I know Rachel is, associated with it as Ascani. I know because, as a matter of fact, that's even come up recently. So, but I don't know, if that is indeed this person or whatnot. Next up,
X-Men 97 races to the finish line with a strong finale audience, as reported by Deadline. The finale of X-Men 97 set a promising track record for Disney Plus. The episode, which debuted on May 15th, saw 3.5 million views globally in its first 5 days on Disney Plus, which makes it the most viewed full-length animation series finale since season 1 of What If, the Walt Disney Company says. Okay. And according to Disney Plus, viewership has been growing consistently over the 4 episodes leading to the finale. There's been positive word of mouth, so that's actually not surprising.
Yeah, and people are definitely waiting for that second season to show up whenever that happens, which I believe is that supposed to be at the near the end of this year?
Not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I have to go back and look at that. Anyway, by the way, Lisa Koshy, Cody Rhodes, CCH Powder, and Busta Rhymes round out the cast of the Naked Gun reboot.
Okay.
Yeah, that was on the side of this thing. I'm like, that's some weird casting there, but okay. Anyway, back to the actual news. X-Men 97 director addresses that Rogue and Captain America scene.
Okay, wait, no. Go through this story slowly. Please, Rick.
So, for those that remember that episode where Rogue slung Captain America's shield into the mountains, let's see, Emi Emmett Yonemura responded to the larger-than-life reaction to that scene, and with a quote that says, "I'm glad that it did break the internet, because at first when we had Cap coming along, he was like, is he going to just take away from Rogue's precedent in all of this?" But then the writers had a really good point that was like, no, we're showing that even the Avengers, they're going to play it by the book. They're going to be Boy Scouts about it. And that Rogue is like, no, I'm not here for that. And if you're going to wait to pick sides, that is picking sides, according to this quote. Or the quote continues. And so I loved it. And then we also had the issue of, well, how does Cap not show up in Mexico and then not in Madripoor? Well, because he's got to go find his shield. I just honestly loved it. It was such a great thing. She's just going to yeet it, and good luck, man. End quote.
He said yeet it.
Or
they lost all respect for me just then.
Oh, please. Like you had respected them for even doing that scene.
I know, but he just took whatever I had left as just, I'm
too old for this shit.
So yeah, that was the quote about that particular one. There's actually not really much else in that article outside of this and talk about next season, but or speculation on next season, I guess. But that was that. Next up.
All righty. I kind of figured that was the case, but I wanted to hear it. So, all right. X-Men 97 season 1 finale confirms a long lost Chris Claremont story idea. Huh. Okay. Let's see. Beyond continuing the story, blah, 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 blah. All right. So apparently one line confirms an obscure detail in the finale that X-Men longtime writer Chris Claremont never had the chance to make canon in the comics. So let's see here. So the scene between Bishop and Forge was a shout out to the original X-Men animated series. It was there that Bishop first traveled in time, assisted by an elder Forge, as part of the series' adaptation of Days of Future Past. Okay. Let's see.
I don't want to pull up the old hot move.
No, I'm just like scrolling. Like,
yeah, no, I'm just saying.
Oh, it's like the first name of Forge. Is that the Is that the story element? That's it. Lame. Lame. I scrolled through this whole article to get to that. Lame.
Yeah, I'm saying you didn't even have to because it wasn't that far in. But actually, I'm looking on the Marvel Wiki just to see if there is a that is actually in there. I know, apparently not. It says name unrevealed. So, but as this story says, yeah, I guess they Claremont never got to actually do it. Daniel Lone Eagle apparently was supposedly his name. So okay, cool. Next up though. Still got some X-Men 97 news. It was a good bit. How X-Men 97 sets the stage for season 2. All roads lead to Apocalypse. I feel like I could just stop right there, because it spoils. It goes into full-on spoils and speculation. Well, it goes into full-on spoils for the finale, which hey, it's if you've seen it, you've seen it. Then yeah. But yeah, I think everything was pretty much said by what I just said, but with the title. Next up.
Fired X-Men 97 creator Bo DeMeo clarifies his involvement with the upcoming season 2. Let's see. In a tweet responding to questions from fans, DeMeo said that while he wrote a lot of season 2, he will not be heavily involved in the production of it. He says he did write a lot of season 2. However, unlike season 1, he will not be heavily involved or leading production, cast records, design, editorial, post, music, etc., nor doing any production rewrites as it relates to the creative vision of the show. So he continues, that's why he said he can't really speak to season 2, but he's looking forward to seeing the final product with everyone else.
Next,
you never know.
Well, no, at this point we kind of do. But yeah,
I mean, we kind of said the same thing about Gunn also. So
yeah, I guess that's true too. Yeah, you got a point. For later. Spider-Man and Wakanda animated series teased by a Marvel producer, which we kind of knew about these, but I guess this is, confirming that they're still going on. That too. So, the series formerly known as Spider-Man Freshman Year is now called Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and we're also still getting that Eyes of Wakanda. There we go. I couldn't remember the name of it. Eyes of Wakanda series, which apparently, according to this article, focuses on the secret agents of Wakanda embedded worldwide, which pretty sure that was a story in Coates' run. Or having to do with anyway. So Eyes of Wakanda is an MCU show. This is a history of Wakanda as told through the War Dogs. I mean, they've shown no more than that. And it is some of the best animation we've done, according to Todd Harris, one of the creators on the show. So there is that. And let's see, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, according to Brad Winderbaum, is going to really surprise people. It is very much cut from that Steve Ditko era of comics. It's Peter Parker back in high school, just trying to make it work, take care of his aunt, completely broken, and having to be a superhero. So it's essentially Spider-Man, according to this quote. So yeah, there you go. No word on when we are getting either of these shows. But I'm sure we'll get that at some point. Next up.
X-Men movie at Marvel Studios gains momentum as Michael Leslie comes on as a screenwriter. So following the success of X-Men 97, the X-Men movie is being ramped up. The live action movie is being ramped up. So apparently, the writer, Michael Leslie of Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is in negotiations to pen the movie. I don't know how I feel about that, but whatever.
Yeah, well, the only thing I can say at this point is it can't be any worse than all of those movies, X-Men movies.
The film is still in early development with no talent or director attached and no release date yet. Obviously, Kevin Feige will produce.
Right. I guess I will clarify my statement by saying, with the exception of those Wolverine movies, which I know people have liked. So, next up though, Marvel sets Vision series for 2026 with Paul Bettany and Terry Matalas, aka the showrunner for Star Trek Picard, as executive producer. So, yeah, the Blank Vision is going to return. Bettany will return to the role, and as I said, Terry Matalas will be showrunner. It just goes on the events of WandaVision. And I guess we don't really have. Oh, apparently there was an earlier version of that Vision series by someone else, by WandaVision creator Jock Schaefer. But Schaefer's attention turned to running a separate WandaVision spinoff, the one we all know is It Was Agatha All Along.
You know.
Yep, that is coming up in September. So that's what brought Terry Matalas on board for this. So there you go. Next up.
Super/Man, a documentary about the life of Christopher Reeve, will hit the big screen this fall. The film, which was widely embraced at Sundance and sold to Warner Brothers Discovery for roughly $15 million, will play in select theaters on September 21st. followed by an encore presentation on Reeves' birthday, September 25th. The DC Studios is collaborating with Fathom Events on the theatrical release. It's not clear if Super/Man will get a wider traditional theatrical release at a later date. So, we'll see. But yeah, so far 2 dates in September.
Mm-hmm. And again, because we have no idea what Warner Brothers is doing over there, we'll probably just as likely see it on Amazon or someplace else, because actually whatever the hell it is at this point. Speaking of, My Adventures with Superman season 2 episode titles have been revealed. I guess by some leaker / spotter, whatever the case may be. I'm not going to say them here, but some of them are or at least 1 or 2 of them. Well, one specifically is familiar to you if you are an anime fan. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I'll say about that. Which is oh, there we go. That's what we got. The first 2 episodes will start on May 25th, which, as of the time of this recording, is tomorrow, because we just passed 12 o'clock midnight on the 24th. So we will have something to talk about if we talk about it next week. And it'll be, it's premiering at midnight on Adult Swim, with new episodes will be on Max the next day.
There you go.
So, and looks like new season will be running for 10 episodes, which I think we already knew that. And released weekly following the 2 episode premiere. So there you go. We might have something else to talk about in the next couple of weeks. Next up.
Alrighty. Let's see here. Cartoon Network and Max announced the all-Nigerian cast for Cartoon Network and Max production Iyanu. The series is slated for release in the U.S. on Cartoon Network and Max in 2025. So, as a Lion Forge Entertainment production, Iyanu is an adaptation of Dark Horse Comics' unique Studios' graphic novel series Iyanu, Child of Wonder, by award-winning Nigerian creator and producer Roy Okupe. Okay.
Yeah, I have heard of Unique Studios and seen some stuff from, at least on Instagram, from that imprint. But that's cool. That's pretty dope. There's been a couple of actually Nigerian produced starred things. I think there's a couple on Disney Plus as we speak. And I think one on Disney Plus. I think the other's on Netflix at this point, that I've been meaning to check out. That I've heard some decent things about. So now we move to the Star Trek corner with Star Trek Starfleet Academy gets Holly Hunter in main role. So she's after that turn in Justice League, she's now said screw that and let's go to Star Trek. Actually, that's just me saying that. Let's see. Hunter's character will serve as the captain and chancellor of the academy, presiding over both the faculty and a new class of Starfleet cadets as they learn to navigate the galaxy in the 32nd century. So, good on her. Next up.
Star Trek III: The Search for Spock is returning to the movies for its 40th anniversary. And we get a peek at the poster for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's coming out. Looking for the date. Scrolling. Where is it? Doesn't have the date. It's got to be on the theater. It's on the poster. June 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not in the article. Lame.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But regardless, that's cool. Star Trek 3, so you say what you want to say about the odd number Star Trek movies. Search for Spock was not a terrible one in relation to some of the later ones. So, yeah.
I was about to say, I can hear a chopper outside. I have the windows open, folks. It is warm up in the New York City area.
It's okay. I heard sirens earlier. I don't think people's paying that close attention unless unless you call attention to it. NBC Universal Studio Chief Donna Langley on Fast and the Furious, Wicked, and the Future of Movies. I meant to kind of screen this article just a little bit more because it mentions Fast and the Furious as well. It says here, Langley's Fast and Furious is a good one that could inspire similar programming in relation to other stuff that they're trying to do. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Langley, who was interviewed by Variety's co-editor-in-chief, gave updates on some of Universal's biggest films and franchises. Though she insists there's, quote, still the gas in the tank of the Fast and Furious franchise, Langley suggested that Dom Toretto and his crew may be getting a tune-up after the 11th film in the series opens in 2026. Quote, where we go next is a question. We may pivot another time and bring it back to the streets of LA and maybe make it a more intimate story. And then there's some other quotes about some other stuff in here, but that's really the only one that I was concerned with here. Next up.
Alrighty, first Street Fighter movie promo poster unveiled at the Licensing Expo. The movie will be directed by Talk to Me duo Danny and Michael Philippou. All right, so this is still a somewhat distant reality, but apparently, let's see here. So the movie is retaining the same logo as the video game series, as evidenced at from the Licensing Expo. And let's see if there's anything else.
How much of?
Yeah, it's an adaptation. It's supposed to be animated.
I believe that is the case. I know that was definitely the rumor.
Okay.
Oh, and Legendary Entertainment is handling that. So with Capcom.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's hope it's animated because we don't need live action Guile again.
No, rest in peace, Roll Julia.
Right.
Actually, I watched Street Fighter 2, the movie, a few days ago. Well, I'm not gonna say it still holds up, but it's still good personally, except for that one scene where Chun-Li just they didn't do right by her own thing, but she got it good in the end. So yeah, it's still a good movie. Especially her relation. Adults, yeah. You know what? I'm going to say this is the anime corner.
All righty.
Transmute.
Nice. Adult Swim is launching a Toonami Rewind block with Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z Kai, and Naruto. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to take this next one because it is related to the story. So,
certainly.
Quote is, we are happy to announce that every Friday starting May 31st, Toonami is going back in time. So say hello to Toonami Rewind, which is Fridays at 5 to 7 on Adult Swim. It says here, well, I'll get to that in a second. But Dragon Ball Z Kai, Naruto, that's at 5:30. Well, excuse me, Dragon Ball Z Kai is going to be from 5:30 to 6:30, and Naruto will close things out at 6:30. And Sailor Moon is going to kick it off at 5 p.m. And the addition to that story is that it's going to be the uncensored version of the Sailor Moon dub, which is going to include the original characterizations of the Outer Planet, or supposedly the Outer Planet Sailor Scouts, which were not cousins. They were lovers. So, yeah, here you go. Next up.
Berserk Golden Age Arc Anime Blu-ray pre-orders are now live at Amazon. So Berserk Cinematic Remake Trilogy is being collected into a new Blu-ray release. So this is the new collection of the 2012 to 2013 films. You can get them at Amazon and Crunchyroll and the Crunchyroll store. Okay. So these will be released on or about June 18th. And at least on Amazon and Crunchyroll says they will be released on August 27th. That's kind of weird that they're so far apart.
You know.
And the price is $52.49 on Crunchyroll and $70 on Amazon. We'll see if Amazon decides to match.
Oh, that's. Oh yeah. That's the other ones. I was about to say, where are you seeing those prices? But I'm looking at the other thing, part of that. But okay.
This is the second Berserk. Berserk 97 is, I guess, the first edition.
Right. And also, my love for you is like Berserker, because you kind of gotta throw that in there somewhere. We're getting into the manga corner. We don't need a transition for this because it's only the one thing anyway. But
okay.
New Naruto and Crocs collection has been announced. Actually, this is not the only one. I forgot there is another one after this. But so yeah, there's a Naruto line of Crocs that are going to be sold exclusively at Foot Locker, with each player retailing around $70, starting June 6th. And there are 4 pair, and you can see them if you're watching the video version. I can see 1 pair that I can see some folks unironically rocking, and that's the 3rd pair. Maybe the 1st pair, I don't know, but
I mean, if you're into Crocs,
that also. But that's what yeah. Well, maybe that last pair might get some play for some folks, but yeah, I see some folks with that 3rd pair. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna wreck these.
I mean, it's wild to me because I remember Crocs being specifically shunned, and now they're back.
They never left. They just waited for people to stop picking on them.
I guess.
Next up, though.
Next up. So that is a My Hero Academia soundbite. And this is a story about the current happenings in the manga. So if you don't want to be spoiled, shut your ears for a half second or 2 seconds. Because the entirety of the most recent My Hero Academia chapter 423 is dedicated to one part, like basically the climax of the battle between Deku and All for One and Shigaraki. And it's a big punch. And, there's a little bit of hyperbole here, calling it the final blow from Deku is going to go down in history, and it's apparently very iconic in the writer's mind. But at the end of the day, that's generally how I saw it also. I just don't think it's worth writing an entire article about.
Yeah, gotta get those views, right?
Yeah.
Next up, though, going back to some Naruto, which I put this in the wrong place, but Naruto reveals Himawari's nine-tailed form. That is a character from this manga, Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. I have known nothing about. You can see a picture of, I guess, said character getting into form right there. I don't know who this character is. If that is spoiling something for you, I apologize, but spoiler, I guess. But if you're keeping up with that manga, you probably already knew. Next up.
All righty.
Let's
transition over into the comic book news.
Meanwhile, the Hall of Justice.
Tony Daniel has shared Wonder Woman 11 cover process, and this is an exclusive to AIPT. And you can take a look at this story and go through the various slides that show the process of creating the cover.
Yeah, which is cool if you're an artist, or just enjoy the art. You might want to know that.
Yeah. Take a look at the raw pencils.
Yeah. Just sometimes some amazing stuff, honestly.
Oh yeah, of course. Listen, as someone who's purchased some of those artist editions of pencils of Walt Simonson and Jim Lee, I definitely appreciate that.
Right. Oh. Oh, I'm going to also take this opportunity to say, which I should have probably did that a little ago, but this is probably a more proper time. Solicitations for August 2024 are out, and if you want to take a look at those from various publishers, including the big two, they are in the show notes in the solicitation section. So have a look at that. As a matter of fact, go ahead and take a look at the clickbait session while you're at it, because there's a particular piece of news that will talking a little bit of something about in a few, and there's also another one about a GI Joe aircraft carrier bathtub that's not real, probably should be.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah. Next up though, how did Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman first meet? Well, DC's finally going to tell that story. Let's see, and I guess this is yeah, that's what I thought. Batman Superman World's Finest 30, which is going to be released on August 21st, is going to be the book that that brings that story. Actually, I need to catch up on World's Finest, because speaking of Mxyzptlk, he shows up there with Batmite, and I think I lost a thread on it because it has something to do with the annual that happened, and I didn't read that yet either. So, but nevertheless, like I said, August 30th is when, excuse me, August is number 30 of Batman Superman World's Finest, when we get the story of how the Trinity met. And I am actually going to try to catch up so I can see Wade's interpretation of that meeting. Next up.
Alrighty. Batman's replacement for Alfred is the perfect nod to comics history. Okay. Let's see here. So the Batman First Night introduces Rabbi Cohen as Batman's confidant and moral compass, paying homage to Jewish creators. Rabbi Cohen fills Alfred Pennyworth's shoe in a gritty, unfiltered retelling of Batman's origins in DC Comics' new Black Label series. Batman and Superman's classic storylines often feature themes that further connected them to the Jewish community. Okay.
Or next up. If you're wondering where Marvel's R-rated editions of Blood Hunt are in continuity, its editor says that you're overthinking it, but an explanation is coming. So I already know that this comes all out of Tom Brevoort's newsletter, which, hey, you might want to check out if you're interested. As a matter of fact, this is the one from last week, because I happened to read it before I seen this article. And yeah, it is just as he says it is. It was like, yeah, you might be overthinking it a little bit, because that tends to happen, but there's going to be an explanation as to what the deal is in relation to the Red Band and the story at large, I guess, and the regular versions and the continuity between them. So, hey, check it out. This article has a very bad joke at the end that I've just got to repeat. One could say it's all a question of guts.
Joy.
Oh wait. Oh no, never mind. You can read this article for yourself, but basically the title kind of says the bulk of it. There's a little bit more to it that he says in his newsletter and in this article. Next up.
So, I saw this in my feed because I follow Greg Capullo on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually cool that this is reported by Polygon, and Greg Capullo will be drawing the Jonathan Hickman written miniseries Wolverine Revenge. And let's see here. This is supposed to come out. So it's a 5-issue miniseries. It's also going to have a Red Band edition containing some pages not included in the regular edition, with elevated violence, just like Blood Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
No release date yet.
No, there is.
Oh yeah, I saw it. I see it. It's literally the last line in the article.
Mm-hmm.
August 21st.
Yep. Hickman on Wolverine. I don't know. I would say that would be almost enough for me to read it, but no, not really.
I mean, I'll take a look at it. It's fun to see Capullo back in the Marvel Universe. So
Yeah, these pages look good. If you're watching the video version, you can see some unlettered pages from I assume the first issue. But yeah, it looks good. Looks good. Oh, actually, going back to what I mentioned about the clickbait section, it comes this next story. Actually, they made a decision. Well, basically, Jordan D. White, I believe, is he still with Marvel? I can't remember. Yes, he still was. He's a senior editor in charge of the X-Men comic books. Yes, so he did an interview with AIPT for their weekly X-Men thing, of which is the I don't know why I'm pointing backwards, but it's the original interview is in the show notes in the clickbait section if you want to check that out. And basically, we find out some tidbits about some X stuff, but also the fact that apparently they had plans for one Franklin Richards, as we remember talking about in the beginning of Hoxbox and whatnot. But then apparently Marvel chose to retcon Franklin Richards' status, which apparently Mr. White did not approve of or did not care of, because of the fact, and I'll just go ahead and spoil that part here, because Franklin's a Fantastic Four character, not an X-Men character, so and that was the whole reason why they couldn't really do what they wanted to do with him on that front. Like I said, I think there's a little bit more to it that was in the actual article again, but that's the Cliff Notes version of it.
Right.
So, but yeah, well, you should check out that interview because there is actually some good bits in there, including it's not just Jordan White, but he's in the bulk of it, because I think Al Ewing and Leah Williams also jumps in and answers a couple of questions about a couple of things. But yeah, some interesting stuff comes out of that. Next up.
Alrighty. A Marvel detail 4 new Ultimate comics that are coming out this August, including Ultimate Black Panther #7, Ultimates #3, Ultimate Spider-Man #8, and Ultimate X-Men #6. So this is an article with some previews.
Right. Which also why I said the solicitors were up, because some of the stuff is coming out of that. You can see, if you're watching the video version, of me scrolling through the covers of those said books. What is? Oh, that's never mind. Marvel reveals new Ultimate She-Hulk, by the way, which is also kind of comes out of that, who's going to be introduced in Ultimates #3. I thought there was a picture of her, but apparently not. But yeah, Ultimate She-Hulk is going to happen in the Ultimates book in issue 3, and this article kind of goes into the kind of how, and I guess partially how and why. But yeah, you can look at the solicitations yourself if you want to check that out. Next up. Oh, good that you got this one.
Yeah. I'm trying to get the I want to make sure that the article opens up correctly.
Marvel having issues again?
Yeah, like redirecting.
Yeah.
Because I have here the Marvel Anniversary one-shot takes readers to the 85th century. But now I'm having...
Oh, wait. No, just click through that. That was because of, the article. I don't know what's going on with the permanent.
Oh, okay. But... So Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider #1 hit stands with a special surprise variant cover.
There we go.
And so that's the actual article. Okay.
Yes. It's weird because sometimes
that's why I was confused, right?
Yeah, it's a whole weird thing with Google Sheets and Marvel permalinks. It's weird. Anyway,
gotcha. Right. So there's a surprise promo cover that shows Gwen hurtling through a portal into the Marvel 616 universe.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting to see. That's a cool cover.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I wonder if they made her shoes. I'm sure there's a version of her shoes actually out in the market, right?
Not these. These look like they're kind of an amalgam of current models.
Right.
because they've had her in ballet flats and they've had her in Jordans.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know why I looked at that cover and think that's the thing I think of, but also whenever I see a spider person in shoes like that, I still wonder about what the hell. But anyway, new series Spider Society spins up its first issue in August 2024. It is spinning out of the Edge of Spider-Verse comic book series. Alex Segura and Scott Gosluski is the creative team on that. Writer and artist respectively. And it says here that it's every spider character you love and some you haven't met yet. May the first meeting of the Spider Society commence. That's right, every spider person will be in the same room for the craziest assembly the multiverse has ever seen, according to this article and probably solicitations. Anything else? That's a press release on it, but so yeah, that's Spider Ramen. What the heck? Here's the cover for it, and here's a bunch of the spiders on said cover, some of which are MCU leaning, and some of which are comic leaning as well. And there's once again Spider-Gwen in those same shoes. That's not a Great Land cover, is it? Anyway, but yeah, there's that. There's a different.
But Spider Society?
Yeah, the second cover. If you scroll down. Oh, Art Germ. Okay. Art Germ was the first one, and Pete was the second. Got it.
Right. That's definitely not Land.
Right. Now, I was slightly joking about that because it definitely doesn't look like some Greg Land's mess. So, that is that. Next up.
A moment.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel has announced 2 new Spider-Man comic series aimed at younger readers coming later this year. The first is Spidey and His Amazing Friends, based on the Disney Junior show. And it's going to also come with bonus activity pages intended for the youngest of readers. The second series, Spider-Man Homeroom Heroes, will be aimed at middle grade readers and will contain 2 10-page stories that show Peter Parker balancing life as Spider-Man with his high school responsibilities. Spidey and His Amazing Friends #1 will be on sale August 7th, and Spider-Man Homeroom Heroes #1 will be on sale September 4th.
Cool. Ultimate X-Men Avengers brings together the greatest heroes. Oh, excuse me, Ultraman X Avengers brings together the greatest hero of Japan and Earth's mightiest heroes. It was bound to happen at some point because Marvel's had that has had that Ultraman license. I hadn't really seen any books from that in
just like Conan.
Well, I mean, there was a whole slew of those books though. With the that's the difference though. But they were kind of like coming out in little miniseries. We hadn't seen one in the last probably 4 to 6 months. Or probably actually longer than that. But yeah, similarly to the Conan thing. But in this case, it's a 4-issue miniseries, written by Kyle Higgins, and Matt Groom with artist Francesco Mana. They're doing the art. Yeah, so it's Ultraman and the Avengers, and yeah, Spider-Man's gonna be there, and Falcap and Captain America, Captain Marvel and the Wasp apparently, according to this cover. So yeah, I'll be checking that out. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's interesting that they put Miles on the Avengers.
Mm-hmm. Or this iteration of Avengers because he
had exactly because he has been before, but with Kamala and with Nova.
Yep. So
I was about to say whatchamacallit, Sam
Alexander.
Sam Alexander Nova, not Richard Rider Nova.
Right. Damn, where is he? I don't think we've seen him in a minute.
Didn't they take his powers away?
They did, but I think they gave him back at the end of one of those Champions runs, or he got a helmet at the end of one of those Champions runs.
Something like that.
Yeah. So he technically, I guess he still has them, but oh no, we hadn't seen him. Anyway, next up,
Predator versus Black Panther by Benjamin Percy and Chris Allen is coming from Marvel. It's a new series that will launch in August. That's
Once again,
honestly, that's probably like, if you know, like next to Wolverine, that's probably like a really apt
Yeah.
crossover.
yeah. I mean, they throw it back in the jungle. There's definitely some jungles near Wakanda where where the Predator will probably plop down. So yeah, if they take it to that point. If he bleeds, he bleeds. You know, if he bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah.
So I might check that out, even though I haven't checked out any of the other Predator and Aliens things that Marvel's been doing. So, and what's it? August 21st, which is my brother's birthday. Nice. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Next up, though, new Solar Rangers roster assembles, resurrecting Power Rangers Ultimate Team, according to this Spring Rant article, which quite hyperbole probably, but I haven't been keeping up with the Rangers. And this is spoilers for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 120, which I believe came out this week. So yeah, I guess the Solar Rangers, who I guess were a team of Rangers at one point that ended up not being, are now back together again, or a new team of them. So are put together. So it says here that the last time that the series featured the Solar Rangers, it was to introduce the Power Rangers Ultimate Super Team led by former Mighty Morphin Pink Ranger under her Ranger Slayer persona. Okay, that's a character I remember. And now an all-new, all-different version of the team is set to take center stage, according to the preview. So, or a preview from AIPT. Cool. Next up.
Let's see. I'm sorry, I got out of place here. Playmates takes over Power Rangers toy license. Okay. So this is they're getting it from Hasbro.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which is, yeah, I don't know. I was like, damn, I guess Hasbro, out of the half a dozen thousand licenses Hasbro has, I guess they can break off one, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Next up, Mezco Toys unveils new animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4-pack. If you're watching the video version, you can see them right there. It is the 80s cartoon inspired versions of them. Let's see. It is a 4-pack, which is going to be priced at, according to this article, and I kind of believe, a whopping $400. And you can go to Mezco Toys and I guess get them now. Yeah, there's some pictures of said figures. If you are so interested in that, if you got that kind of money, send it my way. Next up,
Hasbro reveals Transformers Generations Marvel Edition, new toy for the Decepticon Straxus, based on his original appearance from Marvel's Transformers comics, is being released through Hasbro Pulse. Okay.
Yeah, I think wait, I thought that was the UK, a UK thing.
You got me, man. You got me. I mean, that's a cover that I remember seeing.
Yes.
You know, against Blaster. So
yeah, but I was like, but for some strange reason, I feel like it was still a UK thing, but I just don't. Yeah, I don't know. And I had that run. I have the majority of that run, so I don't know. Either way, actually, breaking news. I'm gonna throw this in here really quick, and I'll put it in the show notes in a second, so the Agent 70 can see it. But Marvel Legends. There's going to be an Iron Man Hulkbuster of Marvel Legends figure.
Yeah. I saw.
You saw it, okay.
I saw. I mean, you know, like I saw it, you know, pops up in my social media feed.
Yeah, but this is different from the one that the builder figure, or it looks different from the one that the builder.
No, it is. This is the comic based one.
Right. $60, and looks like it's coming out October of this year.
Right. The pre-orders already came out, and you know, it's definitely based on the comic book appearance of the the Hulkbuster armor.
Yeah.
It's a big chunk of plastic. Definitely.
Yeah. It also looks Extremis. I guess that was that around Extremis? I feel like the Hulkbuster's been around longer than that though.
Or it was before.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But this looks more of a, to me anyway, more of an Extremis version of the Hulkbuster.
No, it's long before the Extremis
Right.
stuff. The concept came out.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But anyway,
this is like more 90s.
Right. But yeah, I'll throw that in short notes so people will come later after that. Now I'll get to the actual news of, or the extra news going back to the Transformer stuff. We talked about last week about that Hot Wheels Optimus Prime Transformer figure.
So you should fold these two stories together.
Yes, and I shall. So there's a behind the scenes a video from Instagram that shows that figure off that somebody got, I guess they got their hands from. It is Manson Chung, who is a sculptor and designer at Mattel. So yeah, of course they would have been able to get their hands on it. And they were the ones who designed that Transformers Optimus Prime figure. So there you go. Also, and I think that's might be in the next story, but yes, the orders for that Hot Wheels Transformers Optimus Prime are live.
And it's sold out.
Yes, which
it's been sold out. When I checked it, it must have sold out in minutes.
Yeah, this article is a couple of days old, so I'm not surprised that it was.
No, when I checked, but I think I went online to look, and I think it was like later in the day on the 21st, and it was sold out.
Right. Yeah, like I said, still that goes to my point. Not surprised that it's sold out. Not much less by now, but then also.
Yeah, even by even at $80, that's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, that's a damn good looking figure, and it's Hot Wheels, so it's
die-cast, exactly. It's like straight up, die-cast metal. So,
like I said, I would have wanted to do it, but I didn't pull for it. Maybe they'll reissue it at some point. So, next up, though,
Decepticon Commander Pack leaked images of Hasbro Transformers set. So, let's see here. So apparently it's Shockwave, Starscream, and Soundwave.
Yeah, but this looks like, according to this article, it looks to be Cyberverse versions of them.
I mean, that's beyond my understanding. So,
which is one of the animated series, and so
gotcha. All right.
Also, the Shockwave is a tank and not a damn. You know what? We're not going to do that. But it did. All right, back to some more comic book news. So we get a preview for Transformers issue number 9, in which what is the thing? Oh yeah, Shockwave comes in to the thing. Which if you're caught up on Transformers issue, Transformers the comic book, excuse me, you already know that Shockwave was coming. So. Because at the end of the last issue, we see that being the case. But now, yeah, we get that, and apparently Optimus has the whole world in his hands, according to this cover. And there we see a variant cover with Shockwave and whoever that is, which I'm now more convinced that's Ultra Magnus, but I still don't know. And we got the one with Shockwave with the world in his hands in chains, and another one with Shockwave, and I guess another one that's spoilers that they didn't post spoilers for it, thankfully. Next up.
So you talked about this. This is our last story of the night, and apparently, Scarlet number 3 is now set up to introduce none other than the primary character we know from the Arashikage Ninja Clan. And it's not that big a spoiler to say that's Storm Shadow. This is his first appearance in the Energon universe. It's not his first appearance overall, obviously. His first appearance was in that silent interlude issue, believe it or not, from the Marvel run. And so apparently this is first ninja character, and we know that G.I. Joe is filled with ninja characters, so we have not apparently seen Snake Eyes debut yet. So once We get Scarlet, we get Storm Shadow, and can Snake Eyes really be too far behind?
But there's also another one that this article is confirming from that preview that I was wondering who that was. And
Jinx.
Yes.
Got it.
Because yeah, there was an illusion in that preview of her. I just couldn't say that was there, and I was like, that can't be her. And sure enough, yep, seemed like it might be. All I've been through Scarlet's miniseries. So yeah, and that starts next. Like I said earlier, that starts, I believe, in a couple of weeks on the 4th. Which I thought Destro was coming before the Scarlet one, but hey, if you want to see a preview of that, check out this week's Void Rivals. So it'll give you something at the very least. That, folks, is it for the news section. I believe Agent 7 said he had a little toy corner / show and tell that he wanted to.
Yeah, just a little.
To get out of the way.
I ordered the Iron Man retro line She-Hulk, and it just came in today. It's pretty cool. You can definitely tell that it harkens back to an earlier time, an earlier version of She-Hulk, but it's very classic. So you can definitely use this She-Hulk here, right there. That's a great look at it. Excellent look at it. And bottom line is, it's a very classic comic book She-Hulk.
Yeah, as much as your virtual background is going to give anyway.
Right. But bottom line, here we go.
Oh, there we go. That's better. Yeah. There you go. Yep, that works.
It is.
But yeah, that looks good. How much was that?
Yeah, it's a nice figure.
How much was that?
What was it? Regular price.
Like 24. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Regular price. It'll probably go down depending on the demand for it.
Right. I might plunk down on that. We'll see. So that being the case, let's get one last ad read in.
All right. Our last ad read of the night. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Now, if you shop at Amazon often, bookmark the link or add it as your homepage so that you can help the CSPN each time you order. We thank you for your support. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
All right, folks. Let's see if I can do this in a timely manner. It's going to be fun. All right, this is the end of the show. Like we said, next week we're going to go on movie protocol because Agent 70 is going to get his volleyball on with some anime.
It's Haikyuu time, folks.
Yes, indeed. So we will probably
I didn't get a chance to play any Haikyuu sound effects before, so
yeah, that's fine.
Sorry,
sorry
to step on that. Go ahead.
That's okay. You'll have plenty of time next week. So yeah, so that'll be that. So we'll probably record on Friday unless something comes up from that. But you will get Agent 70's impressions of said movie most assuredly, surely, then. And with that, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerd Need on Twitter. Find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent 70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. And sure, we'll give the boys a little prop here. PC_dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com and his own brother slice therein. And of course, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Chron on Twitter, which is a Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account, the Kliq Nation on Twitter, but most importantly and most definitely, he is over at comicbook.com under the name Timothy Adams, writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network, that's ESPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews. Again, especially on Apple Podcasts to help people find our show.
I thought I was going to make it, but I know I won't. You could also find us recording mostly every Thursday night, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes we run a little late like we did tonight, but we try. On the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation, that's youtube.com/TheKliqNation, and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you know when we are on live.
Sometimes you just try to hit that 215 or and under, but sometimes it doesn't happen. All right, folks, we will be back next week. Again, stay tuned to our social medias in order to find out when, which is, again, probably likely Friday night when we record. So this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Wakanda forever!